that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die. Those are the words told by Abdul Al-Azred in the Necronomicon. Greetings everyone and welcome in the Arkham Horror Mother's Embrace Tabletop Fest video. It's been a long and dark time since nothing moves here, but now it's time for the game to awake. And, in order to give the best information about the game, I'm in the best company we can find. Remy Yannes, Creative Director at Asmodee Digital.
Hello, everyone.
And my name is Maxime, I'm the lead com dev on Arkham Horror Mother's Embrace, and I will be your host. So, Remy, I have a lot of questions, some from fans. The first one is, what does it take aeons for these games to be summoned?
It's a Lovecraftian games. I mean, it needs to take aeons to be done right. No, yes, that's the tricky question, of course. Back in 2017, if I'm right, we started the pre-production of the game, and we had, of course, a lot to do. Firstly, because many games of Fantasy Flight games were using the Lovecraftian universe, and we had to choose which elements we wanted to keep absolutely. So we worked with Lucky Hammers at this time for 1.5 years, something like that, on a pre-production. So trying different mechanics, finding how to do the investigation system, etc. And yes, it took time. It took time because Lovecraft universe is complex. We will talk about Sanity, etc., which are key elements of this universe. But we needed to find the exact mechanic that would render well this global universe. So the pre-production was quite long. Once we've done that, we run into production, but as players may know, Lucky Hammers closed last year for financial reasons, and so it slowed down the production for a few weeks and months. But we finally transferred the project to Artifact, the new developer, and with them we decided to go a bit even further on the project to add some more polishing and to deliver really the game we wanted. So that's why, yes, it's almost about, I mean, we started 3 years ago. It's coming, but it's for good reasons.
It's a long journey. So let's step back at the very beginning. What was the starting idea? When did the teams decide that it was time for an Arkham Horror Files video game?
It's been a long process and a short one at the same time, and we wanted to do a huge game on Lovecraft universe on both sides. Lucky Hammers was excited, and it's especially the creative director at that time, Ulrich Wery, big fan of this universe, and we were both discussing about the different possibilities, and this ended up that we had a starting idea that finally is the same at the end. We wanted to do an adventure game using some horror systems, but really we wanted to keep the feeling that you need to investigate, you need to discover what lies in the dark, and this idea came pretty quickly and was presented to FFG somewhere back in October 2017. And I mean, we presented the projects and we were greenlighted pretty quickly because we were all on the same page on what should be done with this universe. So, I mean, it goes pretty quickly, even if it took some time in our head to come.
So you work closely with all the FFG writing teams and the specialist of Arkham Horror teams?
Yes, of course. Not only the writing team, but all the editorial team at FFG were there, and they were helpful. I mean, they provided a lot of elements, assets from all the games, and this brand is huge, is really huge. As a player, you maybe not see how many products there are in this brand and how it created a big universe, but there are so much characters, locations, investigations, etc. So yes, we started a good relationship with FFG, and ultimately we even used, and we'll talk about this later, but we even used one of the original writers who worked on the game directly, on the physical game, I mean. So yeah, they were of a great help during the whole process. They reviewed a lot of the things we did, and added some really necessary content so that it is consistent with the global brand, and so that you players will really enjoy finding back the universe you have in the physical games in this video game.
There is a lot of game in the Arkham Horror Files board games series. What inspired the most for this game on all those board games?
Yeah, another tricky one. Uh, Initially, of course, Mansion of Madness was the one starting the fire, if I could say so. We played it. We just found that this game was the correct answer to players wanting to play a tabletop RPG, but without having a game master. So we were really we found that impressive, the work that FFG did on this game, and we wanted to start the reflection, the creation around Mansion of Madness. But we soon realized that the global brand is wider, and that some of the games like the Arkham or LCG, for example, brought a lot more content and even other ideas. So we started with something really concentrated and focusing on Mansion of Madness, and it became wider when we realized that we could have access to global Arkham or brand, and it just feed even more the creative process there.
The the Lovecraftian verse is very large. The Arkham Horror Files board game is verse universe is very huge too. But do you have others influence, other Easter eggs or idea that you want to put in the game from other cultural inspiration?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, of course, I mean, we are always influenced by other games when we design a new one. I mean, we never start from scratch. The funny thing is that we didn't have a clear Nemesis game we wanted to beat. We were in our, I would say, in our box, trying to find what would make a Lovecraftian game. How can we do a good Lovecraftian game? And there are not so much games like this on the market. So we were influenced and inspired by old games in terms of ambience, like Alone in the Dark, or even the Resident Evil series, because they have something very Lovecraftian. That's certainly what influenced us the most. We could also have some reference to Sherlock Holmes series because of the investigation system. We wanted to see how we could make something different but still have this investigation feeling. So that's I think about it. But we were mostly focused on Lovecraft's global art, I would say, being the writing, the games, the physical games, etc. We wanted to be faithful to the universe mostly.
You speak about investigation. That's a good point. How do you define this game? Is it a horror game, an investigation game? What is the game?
I would say just in between. This is an investigation and adventure game using oral elements. The ambience is at the core of the experience here. We do not use jump scares and all these modern artifacts, if I can say so. So you may not find something that you've seen in the lot of recent horror movies. We feel that Lovecraft's idea of the horror is nearer to the one of the 19th century. It's something that is lurking in the dark, barely visible, but you could sense its influence on you. And what is scary is not what you see, is what you don't see, is how you are transformed by something you cannot control. So, yes, there is a kind of horror in this game, but it's not about being afraid by something that is suddenly coming on the screen. No, that's not that. It's about losing your sanity. It's about going into the darkness step after step, and you know you cannot avoid it. That's what defined, I think, the best the game.
So I assume that it's an investigation game and adventure game. There is a lot of dialogue. You speak about investigation. I always think about the clue system in all the Arkham Horror board games. How did you work on it?
It was one of the biggest part of the game, of course. There is a lot of dialogue, of course, yes. We had a great game designer working on this part, Sophie Lamont-Cardinal. She did all the writing on all this, and she worked closely with Dave Cross, who is one of the author working for Fantasy Flight Games. He is writing even novellas for the universe and for different universe like Pathfinder Extra. So he's one of the experts. And we worked in a good way. I mean, Sophie was writing the narrative in a pretty descriptive way, saying, okay, we need to have this element, and this element said in this conversation. And Dave was then writing with his style, his specific style, to give all this Lovecraftian aspect on the text. So we did some back and forth, but honestly, it goes quite well with Dave, and it was quickly done. That was something we were, to be honest, completely afraid of, because you need to have a good narrative in this kind of game. It's always, let's say, a pain in the ass in RPG to write, but it goes very well, and that's something we are pretty proud of.
Cool. So our sanity seems to be still intact, more or less, for now. It's now time for us to take a step more closer to the cosmic horror that lied in the shadows of Arkham Horror's Mother's Embrace.
What's this weird symbol drawn on the floor? Is that blood?
Let's pass the doorstep of our world comprehension as this video goes on. My sanity seems to follow. Let's speak about the story. Remy, what can you say without us becoming madder?
Tough question. I'm already feeling the pressure of the old ones and, of course, of the players on not revealing too much. So our story begins in the city of Arkham, and you received, as an investigator, a telegram from this old scientific from Miskatonic University, the Professor Tillinghast. She urges you in some way to come to find her in her mansion, because she needs to share a wonderful scientific discovery as she did recently. She does not give you any more clue, and you feel that something may go wrong, and you just go there. You do not interrogate the professor more. But story short, you won't find her, or at least not alive anymore, because she died with a secret, murdered. And you will have to discover what happened there. Of course, there will be some big mystery to be revealed, but definitely I cannot say more without spoiling. So that's it.
It looks like it's an original story. So is this game an official part of the Arkham Horror Files brand?
It is an original story, yes, and it is, of course, taking place in the global Arkham Horror brand. So we are in 1929, which is an official year in the global brand. So we have been faithful to all the characters where there should be who they are, etc. So definitely it is in the brand. But as I said, it's an original story because we did not want to copy an existing one for multiple reasons. First one being that, and maybe the more personal, is that we wanted to add something to this brand and to the global Lovecraftian universe and lore. It's always, I mean, it's a great honor to bring something to the global Lovecraft heritage. I mean, that means something for the whole team, for us. So that's one of the first personal reason. And we also considered that both physical players of the physical board game and video game players discovering the global Arkham or brand should have access to a brand new story, so that they are not just playing again the same thing in another way.
Speaking about new discovery, the Key Heart was released not so long ago, and we can see a lot of things in it when you zoom closely. Is there any secret message hidden in this Key Heart?
Yeah, how to not go in the spoiler area there. There isn't a secret text message into it, to be clear. But looking at the artwork, you might find some thin clues, I would say. And I mean, yeah, I hope you won't discover that much because it's part of the pleasure. So you can have some theory looking at it, but nothing completely clear, of course.
No, to be honest, we all have theories on the teams, and everyone is not agree with everyone. So good luck to find clues. To get back to this Key Heart, there is three characters. Three characters we came from the Arkham Horror physical board games. This universe is very rich. Have lots and lots of characters. Was it hard to choose those who appears in the game?
So, if my memory is good, we have more than 50 characters in the global Arkham Horror brand. So, yes, it was a tough choice to do. But in the end, we had a short list pretty quickly because we had the feeling that some characters would fit clearly in a better way to the story we developed. We had two different axes. The first one being that we wanted some classical character you would find in a Lovecraftian investigation to be there. Typically, the federal agent is one of the character you would like to play in this kind of game, and that's okay. So we selected some like this, and we also wanted to have a global diversity so that you can choose someone that just fits your will at this time. You want to play a trumpetist, you can do it. So yeah, it was more about having character that fits well with the global Lovecraftian universe, and there are a lot of people who can investigate something in this universe. It's not only inspectors, a federal agent, etc. So yeah, it was a tough choice, but we ended up with a cool list of characters, definitely.
So if I follow you, you can choose your character at the beginning of the adventures, and then discover with surprise or not, I don't know yet, other characters in the game.
Yep, that's it. You will choose one at the beginning, one character, and your team will evolve with the story. So you will discover characters that are only revealed as you progress in the scenario, and these characters are fully integrated in the scenario, so that it makes even more sense that they are there at this specific moment. So there are surprises. If you look at the initial roster, it's not the only characters you will meet in the game. Definitely not.
So for the most scholar on this board games lore, will there surprise characters or surprise at all?
Yeah, but can we really say about it?
Without
I mean,
spoiler, okay.
yeah, no
Uh,
spoiler. No, definitely this game is not about spoiling because I mean it's part of the pleasure. But there will be good surprises, definitely.
so let's go back. Let's jump on the three main characters of the key heart. There is some of my favorites. Could you speak about these three characters and maybe the stories on the game?
Yes, of course. So definitely these are three characters that I really love. So from left to right, we have first Jim Culver as a trumpetist. Certainly one of my favorite, or even my favorite one. I mean, of course, you could say, why would you start a dangerous investigation with a trumpetist? Seriously, he just plays music. Okay. It's simply because artists are at the core of Lovecraft's universe. They are the one feeling the global influence of Cthulhu and other old gods. So they are the sensitive ones, like in Star Wars, if I could say. And Jim is the one coming from the New Orleans with a great backstory. He's deeply linked. The region, the New Orleans, is deeply linked to different cults and events in the universe. So it makes him a very unique character with this. I don't know. He has something very specific. You just have to look at him to know that this jazz player is someone of exception. And I like to play something different from the federal agent typically. So that's one of my favorite. The next one in the middle is Harvey Walters, the perfect old scholar interested in science, but not only. He's like a very serious and mystical version of your old grandpa. Yeah, he's the kind of scientist you want in your team because he knows everything on every subject, but at the same time, he's the kind of old man completely absorbed in his research, making him sometimes a bit rude. So definitely a character driven by his passion, but who might be a bit too picky in some situation. I think it's the character you like to hate at some point, but he's really useful. So that's one of the one I want in my team too. And the last one, but not the least, definitely Jenny Barnes. She's a woman of action, definitely. She has fancy dresses. She looks well from the. I mean, she's from the high society, etc. But there is nothing more fancy than the two guns she always transports. Jenny is the woman of the situation. I mean, we have different female characters, of course, and some crazy ones, but Jenny is definitely the fearless and the badass one. If I can do a comparison, she's our Lara Croft in the game, facing the dangers as they come without any fear of the consequences. And there are a lot of consequences in the game, so it gives you the feeling she can brings to you.
Definitely. The Lovecraft verse is all about consequences, even consequences for sleeping. As a man once writes, we live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of a black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. And yet, our journey to madness is not over. We have the last part to this ritual, or tabletop phase video, call it as you want. Let's dive into the depth of the Arkham Horror Mother's Embrace mechanics.
I suppose this knife might come in handy, if the occasion calls for defending myself quietly.
It's now the last part, and we will talk about the game mechanics. You still okay, Remy?
Yep, definitely.
So, let's speak about the guts of the game. What are the main mechanics for this game?
Yes, so I think we can separate the game in three main mechanics. The first one being about the investigation and global exploration. So you will discover different places throughout the game, and each scenario brings you a completely different objective. So you will have to explore each locations to understand what is happening there or what happened. Exploration is going with a brand new investigation mechanic. Each time you interact with an object or a clue, let's say, you will have to use a deduction system. Basically, your team of investigators will give you some clues on what you should do when interacting with an object or a person, and you have to choose the right answer, meaning the right interaction with the object you are looking at. If you don't do the right choice, there will be some bad consequences we'll talk about later. Of course, your investigators may have no clue, so it will depend on how you have built your team, and depending of their expertise, they might give you some good or bad clues at the moment. So you will have to have to think about before starting a new mission to who should go there. The second global mechanic and that everyone is waiting for is about the mythos and the sanity, but let's talk first about the mythos. So speaking of bad consequences before, there is a mythos mechanic that is basically represented by a clock at the top of the screen. Each time you will do a bad choice during an interaction with a clue, this clock will increase until you have filled it. Once filled, you will have some hazardous and dark event that may happen and may lead you to insanity. You will lose sanity points, and one more time, there will be consequences when you lose sanity points. But sanity will come just later. And the third mechanic is about combat. It is the one we have worked a lot on too. This is a turn-based tactical combat mechanic, but we wanted to make it simple and efficient for all kind of players, being narrative or tactical player, but it's still tactical. So we went for a system without a grid, as you can normally find in a lot of tactical RPG games. So it's without a grid, but with action points, and it leaves you in a position where you are free to make exactly what you want. You can spend all your points to run away from a creature because it makes sense at this turn to not be in the range of the creature, or you can use all your points to just blast the creator with the new shotgun you just found. I mean, you are free to do what you want there, but beware that not everyone in the team is good at fighting, and you might end up with some bad consequences if you just go fully into one direction. And this is, I mean, linked to the how you build your team before starting the new investigation there.
You speak about sanity. Sanity is a really important part of all the Lovecraft universe and of the board games. How did you work on it?
Yeah, so we used firstly we used the sanity points you can find in the board game directly, meaning that you have a certain amount of sanity points depending on your characters. All the characters are not equal when they face the old ones. And these points will be decreased by different choices you will do by different events in the game. So you will have to manage this resource in the end. But once you have lost all of these points, you will earn or win a permanent disorder. Disorders are specific to each character in the game, making them unique in the bad sense, but they are unique because of their disorders. And this will influence the way you play. You might have a disorder, for example, that sometimes make you destroy one of the objects you have because you don't want to keep it longer. It makes you worried to keep so much items on you. Or you might have to heal yourself. You don't feel well. So, oh, why wouldn't you use right now these bandages? But your character is full heal at this moment. So you just use the bandages and you cannot do anything about it. Yeah, he's slowly becoming mad. That's it. Moreover, a disorder might evolve in something worse if the character loses again his sanity points. So you will have a global descent into darkness there, and you will have some options to manage that. For example, you can choose to take an agent and leave him in the office. If you leave him in the office during a whole mission, he will heal just one level of disorder. So meaning that it does not completely remove a disorder, but just one level. So you will have to do choices to send one character or one another into a mission. You can choose to burn a character directly during the 3 first scenarios if you want. Maybe it's not the better choice, but you can do it. So all the characters may end up in bad shape, to be honest. That's the purpose of the game and of this Lovecraftian universe. The investigators will face the darkness, but they will necessarily lose something as a counterpart.
So this might end not really well for everyone in the team.
Definitely not, no.
You speak about several mechanics. How did you balance between investigation, becoming crazy, action parts? How did you manage to balance all of this?
To be totally honest, it was a tough part, but we did it. The whole balancing of this game is about making you feel that you have to take the right decision when you, for example, interact with a clue, etc. But also when you are in combat, because even in combat, there will be some consequences on your sanity, for example. So that was our main focus. You have to feel that there is a pressure on the decision you take. So this leads to an interesting situation where you will have to choose who will be exposed to the mythos and who might resist it best. So there is always a choice to be made on who will be exposed to what. No worries, you will be able to finish the game. It's not a roguelike. You won't have to go over and over and over to reach the end. It's an adventure and investigation. That's not the purpose. But you will have to make sacrifices, and this is part of the big balancing between the investigation mechanics, the combat difficulty, and how we can finish the game. There are ways to finish the game with a team in better shape. Clearly, if you do the right choices. So that's basically how we did the balancing, having in mind that you have to face the consequences of your decisions, and you cannot end up with a team that is in a good shape.
So you cannot face an old one without consequences.
No, not really. And if I say that there is just one difference in the Arkham or brand compared to what Lovecraft wrote, is that you can face it a little bit, meaning that yes, you will have investigators fighting with shotgun, etc., and being able to beat monsters, but there is still a counterpart, and that's fully what we aimed at when we developed this game.
I would say cool, but I'm not sure this is the cool part to fight monsters with shotgun. So this is the end of this Tabletop Fest video, but we will meet again as the time has come for Arkham or Mother's Embrace to awake. Many thanks for all of this, Remy. I hope it will not give you so much of bad dreams to you.
I hope so, and I hope to find everyone in game soon. Let us know what you think.
Arkham Horror Mother's Embrace will be released next year. I hope that I will be able to give you more date information and visuals soon. We just released our social media pages. Make sure to follow us to not miss any star alignments and news about the game. Don't hesitate to wishlist the game. And to finish, I have some surprise for you, an exclusive lookout to the first screenshot of the in-game. See you soon, and never forget to watch out for the sky at night.
I got the words, I got the tune. I've been rehearsing under the moon, but I got nobody to hear my song, so I'm humming to myself. I got the place, I got the time. I got a lot of love words that rhyme, but I got nobody to hear my song, so I'm humming to myself. I guess it just had to be.